you ever looked into a woman's eyes and felt your logic melt? Not because she bewitched you, but because something in you wanted to be bewitched? Brother, this isn't poetry. This is programming. You were trained to chase her smile like it's salvation, to mistake softness for safety, to kneel for approval and call it love. But Marcus Aurelius would have laughed, quietly, coldly, and reminded you, you have power over your mind, not outside events. And yet you've handed over that power for a kiss, for a promise, for peace, in a place where your dignity was bleeding on the floor. The modern man is not destroyed by war, famine, or fire. He is destroyed by a smile, by a soft voice that coils around his spine and teaches him to enjoy the constriction. He calls it romance. He calls it sacrifice. But it is neither. It is death with perfume. And no one weeps for him because he agreed to die quietly. He said nothing the first time she rolled her eyes in public. He smiled the first time she mocked his ambition. He apologized the first time she twisted intimacy into punishment. And in doing so, he silenced his soul. Marcus never begged. He never chased storms to feel alive. He mastered them. He left behind no sonnets, no tender parables. He left warnings. And today, you need them more than ever. Because modern men are not dying from lack of love. They're dying from the tolerance of subtle disrespect, repackaged as emotional intelligence, as passion, as a strong woman. Let me be clear, this is not about hating women. This is about stopping the self-betrayal that's been dressed in the language of virtue. This is about the silence that costs you your fire. There's a storm of confusion in today's relationships, a blurring of roles, a reversal of reverence. Men who once built civilizations now explain themselves into oblivion just to keep a woman from walking away. But Marcus wouldn't have tolerated this. He would have seen it for what it is, the death of sovereignty, one romantic compromise at a time. The first warning sign isn't betrayal, it's mockery. The sarcastic jab in front of her friends, the casual emasculation in public, the "I'm just joking" that lands like a dagger. And you laughed, you smiled, you said, "It's okay, she's just playing." But Marcus wrote, "What injures the hive, injures the bee." And brother, every time she injures your image, she wounds your soul. Stillness dies in a house ruled by mockery. Command dies in the presence of tolerated chaos. And the modern man, he dies. Not with screams, but with shrugs. So listen now, not with your ears, but with the part of you that remembers who you used to be. The boy who had dreams before he learned to trade them for approval. The man who wanted greatness before he learned to settle for her tolerance. Because this isn't just content, this is confrontation. There are 10 behaviors no man should tolerate from a woman, not because you're afraid of being alone, but because you refuse to lose yourself. This section is your mirror, and if you feel something tighten in your chest, good, that's not pain, that's memory. A memory of the version of you who once stood for something. Let's wake him up. And it starts with this truth. There is no peace in a man who bows to madness, and no honor in the one who calls poison his wine, drinks it slowly, and whispers the word love as it kills him. There's a kind of death that doesn't happen all at once. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's silent, subtle, like a stone castle quietly eroding in salt wind. And the modern man is that castle. He thinks he's holding it together, but every day, a piece of him vanishes. It starts with mockery. Not the obvious kind, no, that would be too easy. It's the little digs, the jokes she makes in front of friends, the roll of the eyes when you speak your vision, the way she says your name when she's irritated like it tastes wrong in her mouth, and you laugh along, because you've been trained to, because you think taking it means being strong. But Marcus Aurelius said, "What injures the hive injures the bee." And when your partner treats your identity like a punchline, you're not in love, you're in erosion. Second, chaos normalized. She's a storm and you're the umbrella. One minute she's affectionate, the next she's fire and ice. Her emotions fill the room, push you into the corner, and you call it passion. You call it she's just fiery, but it's not fire. It's a furnace built on unresolved disorder. And you, my brother, are the one breathing the smoke. Marcus wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter retreat than in his own soul." But when you share your bed with a hurricane, you don't retreat, you run. From her, from yourself, from the peace you once thought you deserved. Third, attention addiction. This one wears perfume and filters. The woman who cannot go a day without the validation of strangers, the selfies, the skin, the endless scrolling, the curated thirst. She says it's empowerment, but if her sense of worth is sourced externally, she will never value the man who sees her internally. You become furniture, background noise, a placeholder she posts about when the mood strikes, but ignores when the phone's down. And Marcus? He didn't post, he wrote. Not for applause, for alignment. He warned, it is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. But how can you live if you're orbiting someone else's performance? Fourth, sexual manipulation. Let's not sugarcoat it. When she uses intimacy as currency, gives it when you obey, withholds it when you resist, that's not love, that's politics. And you become the campaign. You dance for her approval. You offer your spine in exchange for a moment's warmth. You confuse surrender with seduction. Marcus taught the mastery of impulse. He knew that lust unmanaged becomes slavery. Sex isn't the issue, control is. And when she uses your craving to steer the relationship, she's no longer your partner, she's your puppeteer. And you're the man who thinks pleasure equals peace, while slowly bleeding beneath the sheets. Fifth, contempt for your purpose. You speak your goals and she laughs. You structure your day and she interrupts. You build and she shrugs. This is not love. This is sabotage with a smile. You think she's just not interested, but what she's showing you is deeper. She sees no value in what you're becoming, only in what you can give her now. And Marcus, in his simplicity, cuts through it. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. But how can you be one if every step forward is met with sarcasm from the one walking beside you? Let me say it plainly. If she mocks your ambition, interrupts your discipline, or resents your mission, she is not beside you. She is dragging you sideways. And if that feels familiar, don't flinch, because this list is not just a warning, it's a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. They show you where your wounds are still open, where your pride has been bandaged with fantasy, where you've mistaken the sound of her laughter for the sound of your soul dying slowly. These 5 are not just behaviors. They are quiet assassins, and if left unchecked, they do not just steal your peace, they steal your sense of self. So let me ask you this. Is it love if you're walking on eggshells in your own kingdom? Is it devotion if you've had to amputate your mission to make room for her moods? Is it strength if you're hiding your power just to keep her comfortable? Because if the answer is no, then what you're in is not a relationship. It's a slow burial, one you've dug with your silence. And she, whether she knows it or not, is helping you fill the grave. You didn't start this war, but you stayed in it, and that makes you responsible. You thought you were building something sacred. Instead, you became a soldier in a trench you didn't dig, fighting battles you didn't start, all in the name of keeping the peace. But brother, peace built on surrender is not peace. It's captivity. And you know when it truly begins? When the warmth fades, not into cruelty, but into competition. She no longer wants to walk beside you. She wants to outrun you. Her income, her influence, her applause, all become weapons in a war she never declared, but fights with precision. She says she loves you, but loves winning more. And suddenly everything is a scoreboard. Every victory of yours is a threat. Every loss of hers is your fault. Every moment together becomes a power struggle where she must be more admired, more followed, more praised. You become a shadow in your own life, a silhouette behind her spotlight. And what do? You dim your fire to keep her warm. You shrink to make her feel tall. You silence your goals to let her feel heard. But Marcus Aurelius didn't kneel to the Senate to keep their approval. He led, calmly, firmly, with fire beneath the silence. He wrote, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do." And yet here you are, tying your sanity to her moods, tying your worth to her tone, tying your masculinity to a love that's become a tug of war. But it gets worse. Competition mutates into emotional manipulation, disguised as healing. Every time she crosses a line, she points to her past. Every betrayal has a backstory. Every cruelty has a therapist's note attached. And you play the role of the patient lover, the fixer, the sponge who absorbs her storms and calls it compassion. You're no longer her man, you're her confessional. You're her punching bag wrapped in guilt and empathy. She sins, you repent, and the more broken she claims to be, the more you feel guilty for needing anything at all. You forget that a man also has needs, that love requires mutuality, not martyrdom. You think holding space means holding pain. You confuse forgiveness with self-erasure. But Marcus warned the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. And in this context, your enemy is not her. It's your inability to say no. Your refusal to see that trauma is not a permission slip to trample you. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were thanked? Not for money, not for sex, not for tolerating storms, but genuinely thanked for your presence, your effort, your direction. If the answer is I can't remember, then welcome to the third nail in the coffin, entitlement without gratitude. She expects everything, gives nothing, demands your throne but offers no loyalty. And yet, you build, you plan, you carry her weight, her moods, her projections, and she stands atop the castle you bled for, criticizing your crown. Brother, this isn't partnership, it's performance art, and the role you're playing is slowly killing you. Because without gratitude, love becomes labor, and labor without purpose becomes slavery. Marcus would see it clearly. So other people hurt me? That's their problem. But if I let it define me, that's mine. And this is where you must decide. Are you still a lover? Or have you become a servant in a temple built to her ego? Because when gratitude dies, when her trauma becomes your leash, when competition poisons your home, you are no longer equals. You are opponents. And your soul is the collateral damage. So stop pretending this is noble. Stop pretending you're strong for absorbing it all. A man who survives emotional corrosion is not strong. He is simply waiting to collapse. And collapse is coming, unless you choose stillness over chaos, clarity over codependency, truth over tolerance. You were not made to spar with the one beside you. You were made to build, to guard, to lead. But you cannot lead when you're being slowly dismantled by someone who once said she loved you. It never happens in one night. No throne is toppled by a single whisper. No king is dethroned by a single tear. It begins with permission, small, quiet, almost invisible. You tell yourself she didn't mean it. You justify it's not that bad. You believe it'll get better. But she is not the one eroding your crown. You are. Because every time you let it slide, every time you flinch but stay silent, every time you feel the weight of her disrespect and still serve her dinner with a smile, you are not preserving love. You are signing the surrender document of your own sovereignty. You don't need handcuffs to be a prisoner. You only need fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of losing her. Fear of the unknown. So instead of walking away, you build a house inside her chaos. You decorate your cage. You call yourself commitment. And the saddest part? No one applauds you for it. They don't even notice. Because men are supposed to take it, to be stoic, to communicate more, to hold space. But what happens when the space becomes a furnace, when the listening becomes slow suicide, when the forgiveness becomes self-erasure? What happens, brother, is that the sovereign man collapses, not with screams, not with fists, but with silence. He wakes up tired, not from labor, but from existential erosion. His dreams get smaller, his standards sink. His shoulders round, not from age, but from the invisible yoke he agreed to wear. Marcus Aurelius warned us, a man should be upright, not kept upright. But millions of men today are kept upright by hope, fragments of her former sweetness, by memories of when she used to look at you like you were the sun. But now, you're just the furnace. You keep the house warm, you burn so she doesn't have to, and she's gotten used to it. She doesn't ask if you're okay anymore. She doesn't apologize. She just expects your collapse. Because you've trained her to. When she disrespected you the first time and you let it go, that was a lesson. When she used intimacy as currency and you still begged, that was a lesson. When she belittled your purpose and you explained yourself like a schoolboy, that was a lesson. And now she no longer believes you're a man. Not because you're weak, but because you abandoned your fire to stay close to her warmth. Let that sink in. You didn't lose her, you lost you, and she followed. Because the woman may test, but she only stays if you pass. And the test is never about gifts or apologies. It's about energy. It's about presence. It's about command. And you gave all three away. For what? A smile? A night of peace? A chance to avoid another argument? She didn't destroy the relationship. You did, by letting her cross the line so many times that the line disappeared. So now you sit in silence, waiting for her to see your worth. But kings don't wait to be seen, they shine. they build, they walk. And if she doesn't recognize that, let her vanish. Marcus wrote, "Do not waste what's left of your life speculating about others, unless it's for mutual benefit." And there is no benefit in decoding her latest mood, negotiating for basic respect, or pretending you're fine while bleeding. You call it maturity. But what it really is a slow spiritual death. So rise, not with rage, not with blame, but with reclamation. Reclaim your time, your values, your stillness, your throne. Not all women want a king, some want a jester, some want a slave, some want a shadow. But your job is not to become what she wants. Your job is to become who you are, fully, unapologetically, unshakably. If she follows, she's worthy. If she flees, be grateful. Because a woman who runs from a sovereign man is a woman who was never meant for the kingdom you're building. There comes a moment when a man stops begging the storm to stop. He builds a roof, and if the wind rips it off, he builds again, stone, not straw. Because suffering taught him nothing until he decided he'd had enough. That's the birth of sovereignty. Not loud, not violent, just still, like a man who no longer asks permission to be whole. Marcus Aurelius lived in betrayal, politics, the stench of death, yet his words echoed not with complaint, but command. Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water. That's the Stoic man reborn. Not louder, not crueler, just unshakable. He doesn't correct her anymore. He doesn't explain himself again. He doesn't wait for her to see what she never honored. He moves. And when he moves, the world moves with him, or gets left behind. She used to use silence to punish him. Now his silence is a sanctuary she's no longer invited into. He used to flinch at her tears. Now he looks through them, not because he's heartless, but because he finally sees. He sees the game, the cycle, the 1,000 justifications he swallowed in the name of keeping her. And now, he doesn't need closure. He doesn't need revenge. He needs discipline. Discipline to sit with himself long enough to remember who he was before her, before performance, before shame, before every apology that emptied his spine. This is not bitterness. This is clarity, and clarity is the fire that forges kings. He begins his mornings with breath, not dread. He reads more than he scrolls. He builds more than he pleads. He no longer negotiates for affection. He no longer rationalizes chaos. He no longer waits for her to change, because he has. And when a man changes, not to get her back, but to get himself back, he becomes the rarest thing in the world. A man who does not fear loss because he's already buried his former self. And the new man? He is dangerous. Not to women, not to society, but to the illusion that kept him docile. He is the threat that silence becomes when it chooses self-command over self-sacrifice. And she will feel it. She will sense the shift. She will test it, but he will not move. Because once you've seen the bottom, once you've heard your own breath after years of drowning in someone else's emotions, you don't swim back down to save them. You breathe, you rise, you walk, not in anger, in alignment. She may cry, she may call, she may promise to change, but you will not chase ghosts, because now you know. Some women are not meant to be loved, they're meant to be left. And in that leaving, you reclaim your fire, not to burn bridges, but to warm the temple you now guard, your mind, your time, your kingdom. Marcus said, "Don't waste what's left of your life speculating about others unless it's for mutual benefit." What benefit is there in decoding her tone? In arguing for your worth? In hoping she'll one day respect what she's made a habit of violating? There's none. And you now know that. You now know that silence is not surrender, it's resurrection. That boundaries are not cold, they are sacred. That not all love is pure, and not all women are capable of honoring the fire they ask you to light. You are not a villain for walking away. You are not cruel for choosing solitude. You are not broken for needing peace. You are sovereign. And as you return to the throne, let every scar remind you, she didn't destroy you. Your silence did. But now, you speak with your presence. You command with your absence. You rule, not over her, not over others, but over the one kingdom you were always meant to guard, yourself. There's no medal for a man who dies slowly, no praise for the one who sacrificed his soul for someone who never asked him to. We are taught to endure, to be the rock, to hold it all in. But sometimes the most honorable thing a man can do is walk away. Not in anger, not in resentment, but in honor. Honor for the boy inside you who once dreamed without fear. Honor for the fire you once carried before love taught you to dim it. Honor for the king within, still waiting for his throne. Let them call you cold, let them say you've changed, let them whisper that you've become too much. That's the tax of returning to yourself. And if tonight feels heavy, if silence fills the room like smoke after a war, let it be. It means the illusion has died. And now, something truer can begin. One step, one boundary, one breath at a time. She is not the enemy, but she is not your savior either. You are. So sit still, stand tall, and carry your name like a sword. The world will try to soften you, let it fail. Because somewhere, someone is watching you, a younger man, a future son, or the broken version of yourself. And they're waiting to see, will you rise,